I'll wave again. I will call the City Council, Local Contract Review Board, and Town Center Development Agency meeting to order. Deputy City Recorder Burgoyne, please call roll.
Councilor Anderson.
Here.
Mayor Snyder.
Here.
Youth Councilor Turley. Councilor President Goodhouse.
Here.
Councilor Newton. And Councilor Loop.
All right, all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Councilor, staff, any non-agenda items?
None from staff, Mr. Mayor.
All right, citizen communication. Do you have any follow-up to previous citizen communication?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I don't believe anyone has signed up to speak. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak that did not sign up on citizen communication? All right, I see none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is used for routine items such as approval of minutes, receipt of council meeting calendars, proclamations, appointments to boards and committees, and approval of contracts or intergovernmental agreements with partner agencies. Detailed information on each item is available on the city website in the packet for this meeting. Approval may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Anyone may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. I believe tonight the only item on the consent agenda is to consider a local contract review board consideration of a contract award for the park system master plan. Is there a motion?
I move for the adoption of the consent agenda as presented.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is a downtown business spotlight. Redevelopment Manager Fairley and the owner of the Senate Game Bar. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Councilors. Tonight we wanted to take a few minutes to talk about a cool new business that's opened downtown and attracting a lot of new visitors to our downtown. And that's the Senate Game Bar. You're familiar with that? And the owner, Derek Wright, will spend a few minutes talking about his business, why he chose to locate in downtown Tigard, and how urban renewal has helped his business. We'll have about 10 minutes for him to talk, and then any Q&A. Take it away, Derek.
I have my notes. Not much for public speaking. I can talk to people for hours about my business in a conversation. Public speaking is something very different for me.
We'll make you comfortable.
Why we chose Tigard? We is me and my friend Tate. Tate owns the Versus board game shop downstairs. We are brother businesses that work hand in hand to serve the community. He sells games. I get people food and drink and a chance to play the games before they buy them. What we're seeing now is a community that is excited for something new. It's not a community where you throw something new in and it gets lost. People are excited for new things to happen on Main Street. In the future, I see Main Street being a thriving place with more businesses for people to come down to. If I had to guess, 60 to 70% of my customers walk or bike. So I can see if there are more options on Main Street, there are going to be just a flood of people. And we're excited for things like Halloween trick-or-treating and the street fair coming up, things like that. In the past, I have roots in this community. My grandmother went to high school at the end of the street, Main Street, when there was a high school down there. My grandfather owned an appliance repair store where Max's Brew Pub is currently, and I bought my first bike in the building that I'm currently occupying. The city is helping me. Number one, even before the money, the grant money that was given, the patience and assistance I got from the city. I came into the city dozens of times asking for help. This was a new endeavor. It was an old retail space that I was converting into a restaurant. This is new to me. I haven't done this before. So I kept coming back to the city hall asking, can I do this? Okay, I can't do that. And I would go to my architect, can I do it this way? And the amount of patience that everyone gave me was astounding, and the amount of support that I was given before we even started putting things together was amazing. The grants helped Senate focus on how to have that flexibility to thrive instead of just survive as a new business. You know, the first 3 months of a new business is you're not making much money. And what the grant did was it allowed me to have that flexibility to try new things for our menu, to try brunch, to try different hours. So I wasn't so focused on I've got to survive. It was, okay, I can take a breath and I can try to make Senate grow right away. The mural, the beautiful mural that's been put on the side of the building has gotten a number of people walking by and commenting and asking about the mural. People have been driving by and have stopped and looked at it. I've seen many people take pictures of the mural, and they see my little open sign up there, and it draws them in. And then it's not just me that benefits from it. It's everyone in the building, and I'm sure Max's benefits from it as well, because it gets people to stop and look at something beautiful where it was just a blank wall. And up and coming, we are in discussion about bike racks. Like I said, over half the people that come to my place bike or walk. And what I've seen are people will chain 6 bikes up to the single bike rack we have, or they'll chain bikes against the bridge, and that just eliminates anyone with a wheelchair being able to go across the sidewalk. So the bike racks are going to be a huge help, because people will leave their bikes and chain them up wherever they need to, even if it's not where you want them to. And then the city's been amazing. It's also a group effort, I feel. It's the Chamber of Commerce, it's the City Councils, the city, it's the Tigard Downtown Alliance. I'm excited to try new things. I want to do a passport for the different places in downtown Main Street, Tigard, where people can walk the entire Main Street and are encouraged to try other businesses on Main Street. And I've gotten some positive feedback, and the Tigard Downtown Alliance wants to help with that. Sometimes it's just cutting through and helping me get those connections, because you're always busy. So having someone tell you, okay, this is who you call, this is who you go to, so I don't have to search for it, is amazing. That was on my notes.
Well, I want to welcome you to downtown Tigard. I think you're aware that myself and another couple on a double date went to your facility and had a great time. So, it was unlike anything we'd been to before. It's a place to go play Cards Against Humanity where our kids couldn't hear us. And that's important. We need a place like that. So, Mr. Fairley, did you have additional things you wanted to present on this, or is there questions from the council?
Well, I do want to point out, Derek mentioned bike racks, that the Urban Renewal District does have a pilot program to provide a limited number of bike racks for downtown, and advertising on our website and getting the word out, and they're very popular items. So I think we're probably going to continue that pilot program.
Counselor Newton?
Yeah, I've been to Senate a few times. I enjoy going there. It's nice, relaxed atmosphere, and the grilled cheese is really good. But how's brunch going? That's my question.
Right now, it's not going very well. I don't want to give up on brunch. Everything else has been a learning experience. I started opening at 3 o'clock and closed at 10. And I quickly realized that the community didn't want that. I would sit around from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock and wait. So we started opening at 5, and now we open until 11 or midnight on Friday, Saturday. And we get people that come in at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock, and we start making nachos and hummus plates. And we'll make those until 11:30. And people are excited to come to a place and just unwind and have a game. They might have gone to have dinner somewhere else, or they might have just gotten a late start. And I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting brunch to be an instant success and a hit. It hasn't been yet, so I'm not going to give up on it. We're going to tweak the menu some. But I'm hoping, I'm going to give it to the end of the year and see if I can get brunch up and running. And I think that the new business that's moving across the street from me, the antique shop, is going to assist with that. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Counselor Anderson?
Hey, Derek, why don't you tell us how you chose the name?
Senate is the oldest board game known. It was found in the Egyptian pyramids. They know that at least 2 pharaohs played it. There are hieroglyphs. They actually found a box, I think it was a jade box, of the game itself, and they pieced together how to play it from that. There's an understanding that we kind of know how it was played, and that's good enough. I love the fact that as far back as we can tell, our society has always played games. We've always gotten together and challenged ourselves across a table with other people. There's actually another Senate. It's a Senate board game cafe in Iran. If you look at their Instagram site, they actually have the same games that we have. And they have people playing those games instead of just like I do. They have pictures of their food. It's across the world. It's a different language. It's a different experience. But at the end of the day, we're playing the same games as the people. And I love the fact that when I think of a board game, and it's the oldest board game, I just feel happy that we've been doing this for a long time.
Thank you. Really appreciate your time and coming to share.
Thanks, sir. And this kind of shows how small, targeted urban renewal investments can make a big deal. We gave us, a $10,000 grant to Eric, the owner of the building, and that we all remember the state of that building a couple years ago. So with that, he was able to invest money in the building and attract some really big businesses that are attracting a lot of people.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we are going to convene as the Town Center Development Agency. Item number 5 on the agenda is Town Center Development Agency review of Main Street at Fano Creek plans. Mr. Fairley. Oh, hi.
So just to set things up here, tonight the board of the Town Center Development Agency has the opportunity to review the final project plan for the Main Street at Fano project. And this is a milestone for our development and disposition agreement with Tigard Development. Amy Sabirian is here tonight to talk about the plans. She'll also provide a little background on the project for those who might be watching at home or not familiar with the project as the board is. So after that, the board is requested to deliberate. Under the DDA, the board can accept, reject, or propose modifications to the plans. Staff is recommending approval of the plans as they are consistent with the downtown design standards and also consistent with the city center urban renewal plan. So we'll let Amy go through her presentation, and then we'll have time for Q&A.
I think a lot of you are familiar with the project, but I was expecting some public that we present them for the first time. So I just put a little bit of a background of who we are, and basically I'm going to talk about who we are, what's our core mission, a little bit of background, and proposed development, and introduce the project team put together for this development, and then what this project would offer to Tigard. I want to mention that Tigard had a lot to offer to me. My first job in 1992 was in Tigard, off of 72nd Tech Center. I still go around the block and take a look at my old office sometimes. That was an amazing time for me, and I spent a lot of time in downtown Tigard, bringing my clients over to restaurants here. And I think I like one, sorry, but that was a history. We are known, 14, 15 years ago, I moved from consulting to be a small business owner, and I took over a brownfields property that was my expertise, how to transfer into a wider business. So that was the goal originally, and it is today with the Tigard development. So we are known as brownfields developer, and our roast area, our business is well received. I guess one of the main reasons was that we brought something to the community that they appreciate. We took an eyesore out of there and took it into a viable business. After that, we were well received by the community, and the developers actually came after us, and we grew to have 5 locations. Even though those are all great businesses, but my heart is still into brownfields. So this project came along, and it was immediate, yes, even though I know you guys have a lot of patience with this project, and we did too. This kind of project, it doesn't happen overnight, especially with the small developers. I brought an expertise, and I got a lot of help from Sean and Kenny at the City of Tigard. They've been very cooperative, helped us to hold our hand and help us through the whole process. So our core mission for this project was to turn another brownfield survival business, be able to bring a catalyst to the downtown Tigard, which help to further develop downtown. This is something we did with our first project with downtown Beaverton, Southern Farmington. There was no other businesses, there was no other development. And as soon as we opened our door, within a year, even during the recession, developers start coming in and development happened. And today, there are a lot of activities going there. So Southern Farmington actually known as kind of a cultural district of the Beaverton, where Beaverton doesn't have a real downtown like Tigard has. So the other goal was to create local jobs. That's the most rewarding part of being a business owner, being able to create jobs in the community and become a destination for our people, community. Okay. So our proposed development is a total of 4 stories with underground parking garage. The first floor is commercial, 4 units of commercial, and all 4 of those, actually one of them is still to be determined, but 3 of those is going to be occupied with our business, our coffee shop, our roastery facility, and the pastry shop. And the 4th one might be a chocolate beer. We're still thinking about it. So that would be the first floor. There are 3 floors on top of it, which is all residential and composed of 24 apartments. garage underneath the commercial that has 18 parking slots. Might be a little, when you do the engineering design, they might reduce or increase it by 1 or 2 slots. And there are 6 basically parking slots on the surface area outside. We faced a few challenges beside the environmental things that most of the city took care of it, but there were restrictions on the footage of the building. On one side, on the east side, there are a lot of easements. On the west side, the creek itself and the lot line adjustment that kind of restricted the area that you can do. Then also the 100-year and 10-year floodplain that would restrict us with a lot of, we went back and forth to find the perfect design that how we can basically keep us out of that flood zone. And then one of the other obstacles that we faced when we had our design figured out, and we went to, we actually hired a couple of people to help us with the investment. We had investors that were very interested to come, especially if you know about downtown Portland. There are a whole lot of new activities going on, and developers are restricted with the properties. So they were interested to come and basically team with us with this project. But their minimum requirement was 48 units of apartments. And those are mostly investors who are, and I'm saying this because you should know what within the market, what is expected and what interests big developers to come to downtown. So they are interested to come, but the minimum requirement is having at least 48, 50 apartments. That would justify the investment. Of course, we are mostly interested in the commercial side of it, and we were looking for parking there for the residential side. So that plan, we find out there is a zoning requirements that with the size of property that we have there, we can't have more than 24 apartments. So we basically lost those investors. There were 2 separate investors interested in this. But that was challenges that one of the challenges we dealt with. We changed course. We started looking at other investors, and we have somebody who came in and interested to partner with us as 1/3 owner of the property, of the entire development, which justifies what we need for to go to the conventional banking financing workout. So I just wanted to explain a little bit of what needs to be called. It is something that you guys need to think of in what ways you think that zoning can be changed. So I know those developers to come in. So this is kind of a layout of the first floor. I had just a couple of pictures of model pictures of how the outside sitting is going to look like. So we have a patio in front of the grocery and tasting, and then the other shop, which they have plenty of sitting areas. And then also the plaza in front along the creek is another area that we're working with the city to define private public kind of plaza in front of the coffee shop and the pantry.
Those images are not.
Those images are models that are actually here. But it's going to be pretty close to that. The next one I want to show you, and I'm going back and forth, is the parking garage underneath the basically commercial spaces. And that is have 18 slots, as I said. And it's when the city demolished the building, old buildings there was a 3 feet kind of, the surface of the property was 3 feet below the grade surface of the streets. So we used that to our advantage, and we raised the height of that by 5 feet to allow the parking be below beneath the commercial buildings without any kind of excavation. So that's basically using that set down to our advantage. So as you see there, that's the part of the sitting area, outside sitting area. That's going to be over the parking garage. So, and one other thing to make sure that that change, that raise of height, it's not going to be an eyesore looking bad and for pedestrian people pass by, the entire wall is going to turn into a waterfall. So beautification is important for us. And then actually this is this shows the entire facade of the project, but that's not going to be it. It's going to change a little bit. We're working with our architects and the developer or the general contractor looking at two different models of apartments that's going to be there, and that defines how the facade of the building is going to look like. So we have this now. It might most probably it's going to look very much like this, but I'm hoping that it will look a lot better when we get to the final design. So as far as the square footage, the footage of the building, the height, everything is going to be the same, but it will be different.
Oh, well, I just put the different facades that you discussed earlier and included in the board's packet since we were focusing on design and see all the sites.
So this one is the site along the final peak. It's basically the businesses and the entrance to the lobby for the apartment. And this is the garage side, the east side basically. And that's the back of the building. Yeah. So we put a project team, one very critical, important things that I have to share with you tonight is we have an agreement with Central Betting Development. Roy Kim is well known as a developer and owner of new development within the suburb areas. His major project was the betting development, and then he has done a few other projects. One of them is in downtown Beaverton, La Casla. It's very much the same as this development. I put my name as a project manager and a developer, but in reality, Roy Kim is holding my hand and helping me out to build this. He's going to be our general contractor for this project. We're going to use his expertise and his knowledge. Our offering to the great Tigard community is the experience we developed over the last 14 years in the coffee business. We're not just providing coffee, but we're providing a service to the community that I saw one abroad in my bus. And that's the place that I see a lot of those young adults in the community hang up. That's the investment for the community, to keep our kids within our own community. They found it pleasant and they found it livable and fun. So that's one of the main things that I think this business offers to the Beaverton community or any other community we went to, and I'm hoping with Tigard. We also learned over the years how to roast our own beans, so that's the quality of the bean. And we are one of the few roaster and coffee shops that we, from scratch, we learned how to do it and keep the knowledge within our company. We are importing green beans from different regions of the world, and I think that would be a great experience for the community here. We're not only providing it, but we're educating with that, and most importantly, providing a gathering place. So all patrons can come and enjoy this development. Thank you for the time.
Thank
So-
you, Amy.
Thank you. So in the time we have left, let's kind of focus on the design, on the board's comments on the design. If you do, something comes to you later, we do, for the development agreement, we actually have 45 days from when Amy submitted them, so that would actually give us till September 27th. But it'd be great to hear if you have any comments on the design of the building.
Who would like to go first, or otherwise I can? Counselor Anderson?
Sure. So, we're seeing some pictures that may change. You've mentioned that, right?
The facade of the building will change. We would like it to look more pleasant than what it is now. But we went through a lot of architectural design as this project evolved over time, and we went through some changes of going from condominiums to apartments, thinking of 48 apartments and then going back to 24. So we had some design changes, and each step of this will cost us a lot of money. So at this point, we said, okay, we know exactly the number of apartments we are at floor. We have the square footage, we know the footprint of the building. We're working with Roy Kim and his technical architects to make the best or the best offering of apartments possible that it's easy to get it to rental. So that's the phase we're in. So the facade of the building will change a little bit, but not completely.
Okay. Well, I'm totally fine with what we've got. 24 matches that footprint. So, Sean, the design standards are in place, and they'll probably not come in front of us again, right? Before the 27th? If they change?
Right. So this will have to go through design review and staff. As Amy was saying, we're anticipating them to be fairly minor. When you change the number of units, you have to change kind of where the windows are and the definition there.
Right. Okay. I
But
trust
the
that-
general appearance will, to Counselor Anderson's point, would look similar. Other questions, Counselor Anderson?
No, I'm good.
Any other questions before I?
I
Counselor
like the fact that we've got a mix of textures on the facade, so I'm hoping that we keep that. I was under the impression, I think this is fine, but were we originally going to do a step back, have the first 2 floors, and then, or did that change? Sean, you know what I'm talking about?
Well, there was a change in the development code that
Okay,
no
I
longer
missed that.
requires that.
Got it, okay. But yeah, I like the fact that we've got a mix of textures and that kind of thing. I think that's important. And I thought the floor plans for the units were kind of interesting. There were different ones, and so I know that's not something we get into, but I thought that was good to have different types of units in residential mix. That's good.
Counselor Loop?
I know we're discussing, I think, the facade and such, but I just want to ask the question about the parking, 24 units, 18 spots. Are we, there's surface level parking as well, and I just want to make sure all of that's covered. I think the building itself looks fine, and I agree that the apartments are well set up. But I think, parking is a consideration. We just had a meeting last week here with residents who were concerned. So I think it's definitely something that, as we're continuing to become more dense, it's a concerning piece and a pinch point.
Maybe have your development advisors given you any pointers about the
Parking
rentability of
requirements?
parking of
Roy-
units without?
Roy Kim, who has, as I said, has the same kind of development in downtown Gateway, just a few blocks away from our coffee shop there. I asked him that specific question, and how many units he has. He has more than 50 units in his development, and he only provides 25 parking. And I asked him if that doesn't fall into this, so that's my main concern too. Because if we build this on the rent, also have like 6 to 8 parking spots outside. On the side of the building, the L-shaped side, on the east side, there are some parking spots there. This one shows a tandem, but tandem parking might be about just have 6. That can be used for some of the parking, so it's 93 again. But the parking would be a different charge, so that's why that, and that is something again, the developers have different charge for the parking devices. And that would eliminate a number of people who want to pay for parking.
Thank you.
This is, I mean, I'll just comment on that, this is a sort of a continuing struggle where we want to get people where we have a transit-oriented place, but, until it's a thriving place where there's more transit, then there aren't the people, some of it is kind of a which comes first type of problem, and moving away from the idea that every living unit's going to have 2 cars and, just that dynamic is, and I know it's a stretch right now for some of us to imagine in downtown Tigard or in the Tigard Triangle, but those are both places where we're trying to make that happen. I don't know if that helps add context for you, but a little bit. I know I can see your discomfort, and it makes me uncomfortable too.
But again, the conversation that the residents were having last week was about the fact that a lot of people, the overflow has to go somewhere. And if people have cars, where's that overflow going to go? And as it disperses, especially if it disperses downtown, do people stop going to downtown because it becomes even harder to park downtown and they don't want to go to the businesses there? And I absolutely get where you're going, and I think it's great that we want to be walkable and all of those things, and we want to go in that direction. I'm concerned about if people do have 1 car per unit, much less 2 with a 2-bedroom unit, so 3, where that's going to go.
One experience I had with the city of Tigard when I was part of the advising committee that I can take on the same issues. Shared parking was a solution. They kind of, the city came up with some plans, for people to share parking. That might be a partial solution.
There's a history of our work in downtown parking. Sean can talk you through all that history if you'd like
Yeah, I think I
at a later date, or maybe you've heard some of it. Council President Goodhouse?
I was just going to say that it might be, there's something where we do have some kind of a parking plan we have together. We pulled back on a bit of enforcement, so it might be something that it might be restrictive, so it's something where the people can't park elsewhere. So it's something where, the people rent a place but find out quickly they can't park elsewhere because we do have limited parking. So kind of what Councilor Lieb was saying, that a lot of people are complaining about where they parked elsewhere, but I think if we implement a good parking plan on there, then it will stop a lot of that, but people might find it quickly when they rent an apartment that they can't park anywhere else, so.
There may be some self-selecting of people who don't own cars, who want to live there who's close to the family trail.
Right.
And
Maybe somewhat self-selective.
there are a huge community of businesses around as I used to work there years ago, I know that a lot of my coworkers who would come to work in their bikes. So I believe that's all change of perception. One other thing I learned when I worked with that advisory committee and with the consultant, that the people behavior, if they have to walk more than 1 block, they don't can get out of their car, they move to another city or to go to downtown. That is to travel far. So I think parking is always an issue for downtown, so everything it is for downtown. But it's something that people need to learn.
So can we talk a little bit more about the zoning, Sean? And part of this is as much about sort of re-educating, I think, the board as it is about educating the community. But we had originally, we being the city, had originally thought of a 6, 7, maybe 8-story structure on this site, yet the zoning is limited to 24 units based on the parcel size. What, were we just not doing all the math there, or what? Or were we thinking about very large apartments?
So when the city did its design exercise of getting the parcel entitled, that was actually office and retail involved. So that density issue did not come up. Similarly, when Amy first proposed her project, she was thinking condos at the time. She had planned for 16. So when the change came to move towards rental apartments, which we are very supportive of because that's more in demand, more easy to finance, that maximum density of 50 units an acre was always there, but didn't realize it was an issue until Ava wanted to go more dense.
Also, doesn't that the one, not the investors as well. The smaller units have high density, especially for 7,000 city. Something that, I don't know if there is something that you guys can do to change that.
Well, it's an interesting conversation because, when you ultimately, I guess I want to push on this a little bit more. If this had been built at 6 or 7 stories and it was condos, and instead I know there's a little bit of facade change to where the windows are, et cetera, but would the exterior of the building actually look much different? If you had 48 apartments inside it instead of 16 condominiums? I mean, I ask these questions because, I'm not sure the average person cares exactly how many people are living right there. Now, parking, we just talked about parking. Talk about a parking problem or a challenge if you're up 7 stories or 6 stories and you've got 48 apartments. But any comment or feedback on that?
Well, 50 units an acre is most of the downtown. There's a couple of areas that are closer to the transit center that are 80 units an acre. It is in our long-term plans to revisit that density limitation in downtown. But it is quite an undertaking to do that. Being near to an ODOT facility, there'd have to be transportation studies done, so it's not as easy as just
You don't wave a magic wand.
As far as the parking requirements, I think what we discussed with 48 units, still we're about 48 units as far as parking requirements to be 25, 30, with the number of apartments we have. And that's why we went ahead and designed for you. But it is what it is, and we work with it.
Yeah.
Project needs to be done.
Any other questions or comments? Are we ready to act?
I agree with you, but there's not much we can change. As far as I saw that with the height, I thought it'd be bigger or more in there, but can't really do much on that.
Does our expert former planning commissioner have any thoughts as we've been talking about this density, height, et cetera?
Well, I think the footprint really
Constricting.
is constricting, right?
Yeah.
I think in the triangle, you could have 6, 7 stories. I actually like this project quite a bit for the size, so
I think it'll fit in well.
I think it will fit in very well.
If that's the case, do you want to make a motion?
I move to approve the project's plan.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries unanimously. We are now going to reconvene as a city council. Amy, thank you for being here. Sean, thank you.
thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is an update on the Stormwater Master Plan financial strategy. Mr. Goodrich and Engineer Faya.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Please indulge us a little bit here for Lori and I. My name is John Goodrich, Public Works Utility Manager, Lori Faya, City Engineer. Tonight, this item was originally scheduled for a workshop. That's very loud. I'm used to the larger microphone. Anyway, we were originally scheduled for August 27th in a workshop. So tonight we're going to make this work for the business meeting. First, I'd like to start out that the Public Works Department provides 5 separate services within the city, and that's water, drinking water, sanitary, which is sewer conveyance, stormwater, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight, streets, maintenance fee, and parks and recreation. So tonight we're going to be focused on stormwater, and I like to think of it as 3 pipes and 1 water. Drinking water, sanitary, and stormwater all together kind of form a trifecta as far as a 1 water. Anyway, with that, it's going to be a brief update for the stormwater rate study. We're going to provide a little bit of a framework having to do with a system development charge for stormwater, and then an overview of the capital improvement projects that are listed in the adopted 2018 Stormwater Master Plan. So as part of the stormwater rate study that was budgeted for this fiscal year, we have contracted with FCSG, which I believe is Financial Services Consultants Group, and they've done a lot of work for the city in the past, and we have a good working relationship and trust their expertise in this particular project. Joe Barrett, the business manager, and myself are co-project managers, and then we have a staff of folks that are part of the stakeholder group as such as we bring this project forward. So FCSG has already provided us with the information necessary to provide data to them. They want to look at all the financials having to do with stormwater as far as the utility. A lot of that information comes out of our finance group and utility billing. But a lot of information also comes from the Stormwater Master Plan and from the budget that's adopted as far as the revenue requirements for operational concerns having to do with how we deliver stormwater services to the city. So we've completed the data request. FCSG has sharpened their pencils. They've gone back to their offices and are looking at the information, and they will be delivering something for our staff to review on September 30th. That'll be a meeting with the stakeholders to go over that information. From there, we'll be bringing the findings and recommendations to council on October 15th at a workshop. At that workshop, we hope to stay focused just on the stormwater utility financials having to do with the rate study and with the framework for the system development charges. And then from there, depending on council information, feedback back to staff, we'll be putting together a final set of options or recommendations for council for November 26th for a regular business meeting. We're on a very tight schedule. We would like to, if there's any changes that are going to occur with rates, we would ask council to make those effective as of January 1st, 2020, so that our communications can align with the other rate increase that will occur having to do with water as such. So that's kind of what we're doing as far as the stormwater rate study. There is a communications component with the public. We've hired a consultant, we're finishing up the contract to start working on some public communications. We're also working with our city communications, Kent Wyatt, and with our public outreach coordinator with the department, and that's Marissa Graff. So from that, we're taking a lot of information that Clean Water Services has already developed as the county agency for both sanitary and for stormwater. They have a lot of information that's already out there for the public. So we're just taking that information and making sure that we can kind of tell Tigard's story as we move through the project, especially having to do with the benefits of a stormwater system that takes care of the community and enhances the urban environment. Some of the ideas or some of the themes that we want to focus on with that public communications is some of the concerns and problems that we have within the city. Those have to do with major erosion, silting in the lower reaches of the basin, and then overall just better water quality. I think we have an expectation of those people that are above us in the basin to do the right thing and make sure that the water quality that's being passed on down to us through that basin and the stormwater system has gone through whatever requirements prior to reaching Tigard. And we believe that the people below us would also expect the same thing. So we're just making sure that we're doing the right thing. So with that, I can answer any questions having to do with the upcoming rate study or the workshop that'll be tentative October 15th.
Questions? Other questions? City engineer, were you also presenting at the same time, or are we doing it kind of as two items?
I'm also here to present kind of a reminder of the, I'll just push that away a little bit. A reminder of what's in the Stormwater Master Plan. So if you're ready, I can talk about that part.
I want to follow the way you guys were planning to present this. So would you prefer that we address questions about Mr. Goodrich's presentation first, or?
We're very open to, at any time, if councilors have questions, or Mr. Mayor, if you have a question, I don't think we have a specific.
Okay. Councilor Newton, did you have your question now? Okay. City engineer, let's move forward. I don't see any burning questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So some of you were on council when the Stormwater Master Plan was adopted, and that was in early 2018, but a couple of you were not. And so what we thought would be useful is just a bit of a reminder of why we did a Stormwater Master Plan and some of the elements in it, because those are the things that triggered the need for a rate study to see how we would implement all the projects. And kind of a bit of a reminder about that is the city had, I'm not even convinced the city ever had a stormwater master plan. There was some rumor that there was one from like 1980, but I never saw it. So when we conducted our stormwater master planning exercise, we were basically starting from scratch. And that's not really a good thing. We knew we had a lot of stormwater issues. We have a good maintenance program for stormwater for kind of your typical clean out the catch basins, sweep the streets, that type of thing. But we knew there were a lot of other issues out there, particularly creek erosion. And so it was a lot of work. We were focusing on the highest priorities. And I think what I'll do, just as we're going to see Lori's prowess here with the technology, but I'd like to start out with and mention for folks at home as well that if you go to the city's website and if you just type into the search box stormwater, which is one word, not two, the list that will come up includes the Stormwater Master Plan, and you can click on that and you'll get to these pages on the website. So we have, this is kind of an interactive living master plan, and so all of the things I'll show are actually available on the city's website. But one of the things you come to is what we call a story map, where you can follow down the story map, and one of the things that will come up is, oh, there's me. So I'm not sure why this isn't going full, oh, so I have to do full screen. So I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to go full screen.
Tigard is a special place because we have these awesome green corridors with creeks and pathways running through them. We also see some negative impacts from development, stormwater runoff, and erosion that are impacting habitat and our ability to enjoy these wonderful green spaces.
Here is an example of one of our biggest stormwater problems, erosion. This creek back in the day used to be about 1 to 2 feet deep. With urbanization and development, we put a lot of hard surfaces in, and that delivers the water to the creek much faster, and this causes severe erosion. In this spot, we're 8 to 9 feet eroded. Upstream, it can be as deep as 30 feet. Another problem that this erosion provides is it destabilizes the hillsides and sometimes threatens homes. Stormwater is rainwater that hits the ground and flows directly into the nearest stream or river. This water can flow with beauty, or it can create challenges like we have here, where the sediment from upstream is flowing down and covering one of our important park trails. Our parks manager at one time was actually concerned about people falling off the side of this trail. With all the upstream erosion, we now have to deal with the trail becoming buried by sediment from above.
We've given you a brief glimpse of some of the stormwater and creek erosion challenges that we face in Tigard. There's a variety of solutions, large and small, to those problems, and we're trying to identify and address those in our stormwater management plan. Some of those solutions include construction projects like replacing damaged culverts with new pipes or bridges along the creeks. Other solutions include some low-tech stream restoration techniques, working like beavers in the streams and constructing small dams that will capture sediment in the creek, allow it to drop out, allow the bottom of the stream to come back up, and let the stormwater flow naturally into the floodplains. Another type of regional solution is building large stormwater management ponds that can capture flow before it gets into the creek and release it very slowly back to the creeks.
Ooh, I did that right. So that's, that video is 2 years old, but it still shows you the problems that we face in our stream and stormwater systems and that we are going to attempt to manage with implementing our stormwater master plan. One of the other things you can get to in the story map is there is an interactive study area map. And so I just want to show you a couple of pages of products because these relate directly to the costs we're looking at. So you can click on Explore Map, and then since we were just looking in that video at Bull Mountain, and I should make a quick little note, that picture of Carla Stetter in the huge canyon, that is used by Clean Water Services over and over and over again, and we are the poster child of what's called hydromodification, which is the erosive forces of urban stormwater and their impacts on the streams. So they use that as what other cities don't want to have to face if they keep having so much stormwater running off the streets that's untreated. So that stream, Kruger Creek, is up here in the Bull Mountain subbasin. See if I can get this to open up. So just for folks' edification, there are these 2-page fact sheets that come up when you click on each of these areas, and they talk about that part of the watershed, they talk about what some of the problems are, and they list potential projects to fix some of those problems. And there's a nice map that shows each of these project areas. You can see another photo of the erosion problems. And if I click on a particular project sheet, this will show you the description for that particular capital project to try to solve that erosion problem. So these 2-page fact sheets are basically what make up the heart of the master plan. So they show photos, here's the problems, and they show a cost estimate for that project and the type of design elements that are included with it. The other thing you can get from the website is you can go over and see the list of all of the master plan documents. So I showed you a fact sheet from Bull Mountain. I showed you a capital project fact sheet for one of the projects on Bull Mountain. There are also project fact or programmatic fact sheets. So in addition to high priority capital projects, there's 18 of those listed in the plan that we'd like to see implemented over a 20-year period. We also have 11 other programmatic recommendations in the master plan that range from doing additional, more detailed planning to actually going out and assessing the condition of some of our assets that we don't know a whole lot about. We know there are certain elements we know a lot about, there are other ones we don't. So for instance, there's a fact sheet for culvert rehabilitation. And as part of the master plan, we went out and did some assessment on some of our largest culvert pipes, the condition, the size, the materials, the age, what are the problems around them. But we found we had a lot more culverts that we didn't have information about. So part of the recommendation was to go out and get more information about it, put it in our asset management system, and try to start coming up with a programmatic way to deal with major maintenance issues. So these fact sheets talk about these types of recommendations. In this case, it's going out and doing those inventories, and it's starting to tackle the backlog of maintenance needs. You've heard this type of thing before when you've had the discussions about our park system and the backlog of parks needs. It's very similar with the stormwater system. We have a backlog of major maintenance as well as capital needs. And the other, what I think is probably the most important document in the plan that's also here on the website, is the implementation plan. And it's really just a memo, but it says here's how we could tackle all these issues over a 20-year period. And the most important thing is the second page, which is a table that lists high, medium, and low priorities for all of these different elements, the capital projects as well as the programmatic elements. And it gives total costs for all of them as well as an annualized cost over 20 years. And the bottom line is rather large. The capital projects alone, 18 projects, which I will tell you is not every project in Tigard, it's just the very top priority ones, is about $30 million worth of work that's needed. When you add everything up, it adds up to over $50 million worth of need, or an average annual value of about $2.7 million. So that's the basis to start the rate study with. And so I wanted to make sure you had that understanding for our plan. And with that, maybe I'll leave it open to questions.
That's a phenomenal resource. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm actually going to spend some time exploring it based on what I just saw. So I'd encourage others to do so. Who has questions for either staff member?
I think the website information's great. Is there a place I can go to and get the last list you showed was good, but is there something I can go to if I'm a ratepayer and looking in my area and think, okay, when is a project around me scheduled to be improved or done, or do we even know that yet?
I guess
so I can make a connection in my head if I'm a ratepayer.
Right. So
on the date specifically.
Yeah, or the next 5 years or whatever. And maybe we don't know that yet, but people might want to look.
So most of these projects are not currently scheduled. When we completed the master plan and council adopted it in 2018, we did take a few of the smaller pieces and we put them in the capital improvement program. So the things like the culvert inventory, we started putting some annual money in for that. We put in some pre-design for some of the Kruger Creek work, that great big eroded Grand Canyon. But, and we, in the outer years of the CIP, we placed I think it's a $6 or $7 million project to just correct that Grand Canyon. And I'm not entirely sure that that's fully funded at this point based on the amount of revenue we have. But all these other projects are not yet scheduled.
So in essence, we could direct people to the CIP.
Yes.
We could say, you know, if you're interested, you could look at the CIP, and that might be helpful
Yes.
for people to look at that. Okay, thank you.
That would certainly tell them what's going to be happening sooner. Okay, Council President Goodhouse. Oh, okay, you, other questions? Thank you for the very thorough update, and I think we have a good sense of what's to come. So do you need any other direction from us at this point, or?
No, thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you both. All right, next item on the agenda is item number 7. Consider an ordinance to reaffirm the town center boundary. Senior Planner Shanks. Good to see you. You need to turn your mic on for sure.
Sorry,
Are you too low? Is that what you?
I might be too hot, I don't know.
Oh,
It'll be fine.
okay.
I was wondering about the rug underneath the table, it's all bunched up and I didn't know if it was meant to be serving a purpose. Good evening, Mayor and councilors. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. My name is Susan Shanks, Senior Planner with the City's Planning and Development Department. And I'm here tonight to present an ordinance to reaffirm the city's town center boundary. And just a couple of things. The city's town center boundary is its own town, like its own boundary. It's a local action that council takes and has control over to some degree. It's actually also a regional designation. It actually is somewhat managed by the Metro Urban Growth Management Functional Plan and shows up on the Metro Growth Concept Plan. And I'd say that this ordinance is somewhat atypical in that, please don't look at it, okay? It's okay. It's somewhat atypical in that it's asking council tonight to reaffirm something that your predecessors did back in 2010. And the reason for that is somewhat long, but maybe not complicated. When City Council back in 2010 passed a resolution to revise its town center boundary, Tigard's town center boundary, it was later objected to by ODOT about a year later. And honestly, I wasn't around then. I tried to do as much digging as I could. I don't know what happened after ODOT objected. I don't even know if ODOT was objecting really to Tigard's town center boundary revision, or if they were actually wanting pushing Metro to change their procedural requirements. But what happened was ODOT objected, and there was some paper trail a little bit after that happened, but it just kind of sat there. But in the meantime, Metro had actually changed their growth concept map to reflect what Tigard had done in the resolution that passed in 2010. And that boundary has existed on the map since then. And it kind of, I think, dropped off people's radars, honestly, because in 2017, when council was considering changes to the Tigard Triangle, including a major rezone of the area, ODOT brought up this issue of how we adopted our town center boundary to begin with, which includes the Tigard Triangle as well as the downtown area. And so in 2017, when City Council rezoned the Tigard Triangle, it actually made a commitment at that time to reaffirm the town center boundary using the most current Metro procedural requirements, which is to adopt it by ordinance, not resolution, which was what was originally done back in 2010, and also to do the proper notification to ODOT and Metro, which wasn't a requirement back in 2010, but again, that's what ODOT objected to back in 2011. So that is why I'm here this evening, is to put this kind of somewhat procedural do-over in front of you to satisfy both Metro and ODOT, and to basically keep our existing town center boundary as it currently exists on the Metro 2040 growth concept map, the same as it's been for the last 9 years. So that is what this ordinance is about.
I'd like to understand how ODOT has that level of institutional memory to be able to pull that off. That's impressive.
There is one planner there that has been there a long time, and she actually has recently retired, but is now still working with ODOT on some big projects. And yes, it was one person who remembered, and honestly, no one else had remembered, but she was in fact correct, and we dug up the records, and there was this objection. Even Metro didn't even really remember, and they changed their map and moved on, and it came back to us all these years later.
All right, council questions? You remember? All right, Counselor Newton. I don't know that, yeah, okay. Other questions, comments? So you want us to adopt this tonight?
Correct.
We are hoping we will.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 19-15.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Deputy City Recorder, please read the number and title of the ordinance.
Ordinance number 19-15, an ordinance to reaffirm the Tigard Town Center boundary to include the Tigard Triangle and the entire city center urban renewal area, consistent with adopted city plans and the Metro Urban Growth Management Functional Plan.
Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Snyder?
Yes.
Council President Goodhouse?
Yes.
Counselor Lube?
Yes.
And Counselor Newton?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And we have cleaned up a little mess. Yes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, introduction to Red Rock Creek Trail planning work. Mr. Pagenstacker and company, looks like you've got some people with you. Okay. Please remember to turn your mic on.
Also, I'd like to make use of the cursor, and I think it's fair to everybody to use this rather than the pointer. So, for the record, my name is Gary Pagenstacker, project planner with Community Development Department. The title of this is Introduction to the Red Rock Creek Trail Planning Initiative. This is an initiative of the project planner in community development to look at this trail holistically. Council should understand that no action is requested. This is for your information only. We are at a place in the planning process which is early. There's many projects that are associated with this trail, and this is an opportunity for staff to sort of pull together all of those things that relate to a trail and see it as a piece. So this slide shows in hatched the Red Rock Creek Trail proposed trail alignment. It's an area that goes through the Tigard Triangle and the Hunsinger Core area and meets up with the Fano Creek Trail at its south terminus. So it is an area that is not described, all its parts are not described in one document. The Tigard Triangle District Plan describes the triangle. We run into this in descriptions of Southwest Corridor, light rail, and private development, which we'll explore individually as we go. But it is a watershed-based trail alignment, Red Rock Creek as a tributary to Fano Creek. This is a regional trail context. So the red lines indicated here are at the top right of the screen, the Southwest Portland Trail number 3, which leads into the Southwest Trails network in the city of Portland. The bottom right of the image is the Tigard Lake Oswego Regional Trail, which follows Cruise Way into Lake Road, Lake Oswego. And the Fano Creek Trail, which is shown in its current extent to the library, and also the Milton Court segment north of Bonita. And there's a trail project to connect that. But you can see that this watershed and proposed Red Rock Creek Trail is a connector to these three regional trails that in a place where we hope to have the highest density in the city of Tigard, the downtown Tigard area and the Tigard Triangle. So there's a lot happening in the watershed. We heard a little bit tonight from prior two speakers. One is that these two areas, downtown Tigard and Tigard Triangle, together comprise the town center. So this area through which the trail runs is Metro designated town center. So a very, figures very big in Tigard's future. And a trail that services this area goes right down in the middle of it is the high priority. Also, the stormwater master plan that you heard from Lori and John, this segment of Red Rock Creek, although it wasn't featured in the photo, could have been. The upper reaches of Red Rock Creek in the vicinity of Oregon Education Association has canyons like that as well. And there's been a lot of remediation in this area prior to protect the sewer alignment. So downtown urban renewal, Tigard urban renewal, Banner Creek extension, and private development. Some of these we'll look at more closely in the presentation. So I think of these, the whole length of the trail as 4 project areas: Tigard Triangle, the Highway 217 bridge, the Hunsinger Core, and the railroad bridge crossing. We start with the triangle. As you know, we've just been through a planning process to establish the lien code in the Tigard Triangle. This is from that development code chapter showing the Tigard Triangle Transportation Network map, on which I'll use the cursor in this case to point out the trail, the yellow golden dot that goes through roughly in alignment with the creek. So this is the only place where we have the trail identified in a plan. The rest of the trail outside of the Tigard Triangle District is not referenced in a plan. Also, the detail on the left is from the Equitable Development Strategy for the Triangle Urban Renewal Project, which shows in yellow highlight the rating that the trail has among projects identified in the urban renewal area for development. So Red Rock Creek is listed in the triangle on the plan, and it has a very high rating among other projects being considered in urban renewal. So some of you are familiar with the Memorandum of Understanding with Southwest Corridor with TriMet. And this is quoted verbatim for a very specific reason. This requirement of the MOU addresses this 217 bridge crossing between the downtown Tigard and Tigard Triangle areas, because we prize connectivity in an area that has got such significant barriers. The triangle's cut off, as you know, because of its namesake on 3 sides. And in this case, the crossing over 217 for ped bike would be a critical connection. And the MOU stipulates that in 2 parts, TriMet will design this within the project design effort, but that funding would be separate and responsibility of a joint effort by the city and TriMet. So as the urban design team lead for the city in the Southwest Corridor project, this is one of our highest priorities that we hold TriMet to, implementing the MOU. This design work hasn't happened yet, and you can imagine with the complexities underway now with Southwest Corridor, why they may not have prioritized this. But nevertheless, we do expect that this bridge will be designed within the project development phase, funding being a separate question. So in the Hunsaker core, it's defined here sort of in this image on the north by the bridge we were just discussing, where the creek runs through it along this segment here. And this is roughly the boundary, which is 217, the Rolling Hills neighborhood, Hall Boulevard, and the railroad tracks. So this area includes in the black circle area development currently undergoing in the Fields property. I think most of you remember from 2014 the Fields development going through a rezone and a planned development. And currently the Fields apartments are being built out there, and the whole Fields property, the upland portion is under construction, extension of Wall Street. The Martins have the portion adjacent to Wall Street and the downhill slope. And the Trailhead is a project of Flex Office that's adjacent to the railroad and the new Wall Street. So this shows on the right sort of vicinity map of where that Red Rock Railroad Bridge is. It's about halfway between Hall Boulevard and Bonita, which is about 1 mile. So this would provide a multi-use path crossing where the next available crossing would be half mile either north or south. And it is it is crossing not far from where the extension of the Fano Creek trail would be, which would lead fairly closely to the public library. The detail image on the left in the area that's yellow shows where the Fred's Fields, or where the Fields apartments are located in this section of the yellow, and the lower section is where the Trailhead commercial development would be. And this is the site where, according to the rezone, 286 non-retail jobs was required of the condition of the rezone. So we expect that to be met with about 100,000 square feet of commercial property, which is being developed and being shown to the market to to parties as we speak. And the bridge is the eastern bridgehead is on this property, the commercial property. And that property development is taking into account the bridgehead design in a design development effort between DBG Properties, who is the developer of the workforce housing on the eastern portion of the property. So this collaborative design effort for a railroad bridge on the DBG property recalls 18 months ago where I and Lloyd Purdy, Skip Grodall, Kelly Husseini, and Steve Wells presented to the American Planning Association conference, national conference, the collaborative effort that led to the developability of the Fred Fields property through key funding infrastructure of $8 million, which is primarily a combination of grants and developer contributions. And as I mentioned before, required certain threshold of office development to meet the employment goals for what was an industrial zone land. You see on this image the extension of Wall Street, which is built all the way around the corner to this point here, and then this development is building it to the extent of its property, and phase 3 is a section at the end here connecting to Tech Center Drive, which is the city's project. And these are the 3 commercial building footpaths in concept, and this is the location here of where the bridgehead would cross down in here. This is an example or an aerial photograph showing the commercial properties in this location, what is currently permitted and being built here, the residential workforce housing, and the industrial portion here, the Martin property, which we expect a new application in shortly. The bridge location would be at this corner of the property, crossing Wall Street, and then the railroad at this point into the Brown Natural Area, which is co-owned by Metro and the city of Tigard. So I show you these slides from 18 months ago because I see this railroad bridge as a continuation of the collaboration that opened up the Fields property from the beginning. And this is sort of continuation of that spirit of making the pie bigger for everybody and taking advantage of a topography, an interested property owner, and the city's strategic plan to come up with something that wouldn't otherwise have happened on its own. And so this effort is currently underway with design development contract with OTAC, providing initially a bridge visualization such as this, showing the bridge as a box truss crossing the railroad tracks. And this design development is, we met just this afternoon to look at some design alternatives, which may be available to the open house, the transportation open house, this September 18th. So this work is courtesy of DBG Properties. They're front-ending this investigation. There's feasibility and alternatives for a bridge. The expectation is the city would be looking for grants to build the bridge. There's a letter of understanding between the DBG Properties and the city of Tigard that after this alternatives analysis, feasibility, we'll take a pause, evaluate what we found out, what reliable costs are, and decide at that point where to take it from there. So this will be coming back to you for your consideration at a later time. So Red Rock Creek Trail implements the strategic plan vision to be the most walkable city. The plan objectives, facilitating walking connections to develop an identity, and ensure development advances the vision and city council goals as well. So it's my hope as an urban designer that this bridge can really be something more than just a conveyance of people over a difficult obstacle, but in pursuit of energizing the strategic plan to really stand out as a commitment by the city to furthering its strategic plan vision. Remember, there's no action requested of this agenda item.
So we're clear?
But I do, yes, want to encourage questions. And we have here Lloyd Purdy in the audience and Don Hansen from OTAC, both very involved with this project's design development and the past economic development initiatives to answer your questions as well.
Thank you. Council, questions? I know I had an introduction to this a couple months ago at Gary's request, so I got some of my questions answered at that time, but so I want to open it up to others. Councilor Newton, anything? Okay. Council President Goodhouse?
I already saw some of it at the Town Center Advisory Committee, so some of them already asked some few questions already.
Was there any feedback from the TCAC that you heard?
Anything with big things, and he already commented on it too, was that there is going to be a bridge over 217, that there is the pedestrian part and the bike part on it to really connect those communities, so that really makes a huge difference if we can get that on there. That would make it'd be kind of pointless to just have a light rail crossing over 217 and not have that. But everyone was definitely in favor of all the connectivity and the trails connecting everywhere. So, but that was one of the biggest things that stood out when that started being talked about, was everyone's kind of surprised that why would you build a bridge over 217 and not connect it with bike and ped.
Well, we will most certainly have to come up with the funding plans for that. I think it's pretty clear that the project is not going to be, the light rail project's not going to be funding that. So, you know, that project's already very budget constrained, and I don't see that happening. So I agree it'd be an injustice for it to not get built, but we're going to have to get creative about how to pay for it. Councillor Anderson? Councillor Luke? Thank you. Oh,
I
Counselor
did
Newton.
note that this is referred to in the Tiger Triangle Plan. I went back and looked at everything. And I didn't know about this. This is kind of exciting. My only concern would be in terms of funding these things and grants. I mean, it's something we can talk about later, but it would be really good to think about priorities and what sections of the trail are going to come with development, you know, what makes the most sense for that, because we're probably going to have to get creative about how we fund some of this. But I think it's an exciting project, so that would be my only comment. Thanks.
Any others? Sorry, Councillor Newton, I know you wanted me to come back and I missed that, so sorry about that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 9, consideration of electric vehicle chargers lease agreement. Do we have our staff member here to present? Oh, okay. Good to see you, Nadine.
Good evening, Council. I think he got off a little bit with his time, so I'm familiar with the lease, and so I'll go ahead and take the lead on it. We're bringing this lease before you because it's a little bit out of our ordinary in terms of time. We currently have one EV charger at the library, and we need to replace that. We have an opportunity to replace it with 2 through this new company. They'll give us a little bit of money for our electric bill, and they'll get some advertising out of it. We'll get some advertising as well. The length of the lease is what's a little unusual. So we thought we'd better bring it before you and give you input into what you think of the idea. And like I said, we have, there'll be 8 rotating images. One of those will be in support of city functions. And then in terms of revenue, there'll be no maintenance costs. It'll be the newest technology for the EV chargers. We will have the additional one. We can display the information. We'll receive $150 a month on that. And also $100 per month for electricity usage. And the lease will be renewable in
When you say the newest technology, now as an electric vehicle owner, I know a lot more about this. When you say that, what are you meaning? Is it a level 2 charger now, or do you? Because part of the, particularly as vehicles become fully electric, the speed, for example, of the one that was at the library before would take, especially to charge, like any vehicle that has like full gas range would take like a day and a half or something to charge.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Schedule A includes what is in, what the equipment is. We get our 2 level 2 charging stations. Level 2 is defined as capable of delivering electricity at a rate of up to 16.8 kilowatts per hour through a coupler compatible with the J1772 standard.
And amazingly, I actually know what that means.
I do not.
I got one of those in my car. Okay, so level 2 charger. I did not, still am not finding out. I didn't see it when I reviewed it, but what?
50 of your packet, Schedule A.
Okay. I still, this is an example where, you know, we got something in the library now, and that was probably right as level 2 was becoming what was standard, and now we're talking about level 2, and sort of the cutting edge is the next level. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think this is how life goes sometimes in practical terms, but I'm not going to dominate the time. Who's got other questions? Or Councilor Lube?
So this is a situation where they came to us and there was the offer made or the request?
Yeah, and we knew that our chargers, especially at the library, have been working really well. And so when they approached us and asked us to be a better offer and that we were going to our facility supervisors and the others talking to them about it and
Perfect. During those discussions, did we talk to any other providers to compare and contrast any offers, or did we just sort of research what was presented to us? Okay. And are you concerned with the 10 years, especially with the way that technology is rapidly changing, that this could be out of date more quickly than maybe we would anticipate?
well, first we think it's their benefit that because
Yeah.
that's where they're advertising it. So if they're not able to, they get that with people coming in and as their card taking it to advertising. So I think it's to their benefit to keep the technology as well as ours. We also have the ability after a certain amount of time to opt out.
Oh, don't worry about it. We're running a little ahead schedule.
So Councilor Wood was just asking if we had talked to any of the vendors about potentially providing EV chargers and also
And just really relating to technology and at what point it may swap over or
So, yeah, we did reach out to the current contractor, they really have a program that we explored right now. We're not expecting to see any trouble with that program. So this seems like the best case, but everybody else in process and we're not sure at this point.
part of what Kevin was referring to is that we have other AV stations within the city. And this particular vendor doesn't feel like they're at visibility enough to want to see their advertising. So the library was
So what's our plan with the other areas?
We're researching to try to upgrade right now. This is the only revenue source we could find in the current economy that would provide us with EV updated line technology EV chargers. So we have the ability to provide that to our citizens without costs.
Thank
And
you.
this company still requires that you pay for charging as well. It's not free.
It's not free to do.
Right. Okay. Were those all your questions? Okay. Counselor Anderson, any questions?
I'm a little confused about the advertising. It's seen by whom?
So there's two displays, there will be two displays at the library. If you're familiar with the current EV charger at the library, it's going to replace that plus another displays. And so folks that see that will be the folks that are coming at the library. So it's a high visibility location, that's how the contract is. We try to
having the same 10 people look at the ads is not gonna be, I mean, I don't know how many people walk past the one near the, but it can't be that many. It's less than 20 people probably that are regularly around that.
And then I guess that the display is big enough that if you're walking across their line, you know, and the light catch your eye, you'll see something that you want to see, and you can catch what's there in there.
Council President Goodenhouse?
I guess my question, this might be more for the council, is I don't know what else we really have for advertising other than if we do in our Parks and Recs guide. I know before a couple of years ago, we were talking about something like the roof for the police station, maybe putting like a like a stationary thing that said who did this for advertising. We had a conversation if we wanted to get into the whole advertising or not and get money off of that. So I don't know if we've done anything else or if this is a new experience, and if we want to start, I mean, once we open this up, what else do we do for advertisement? What do we don't do? Is this something where this is one of the first times we're really jumping into advertisement? And if this is, what precedents is this set by going forward? So, I mean, do we want to try to make a little money off this or not? And I guess the other question too is, we talked to the existing contractor in this one, but if we were to throw it out for bid, will we get anyone else, or is this pretty much kind of the players in the field, so we would? Okay, so I think we have to ask ourselves a question, though. I mean, not that I'm against it. I think we just have to ask ourselves a question, though, if we want to start getting into the advertising. I think it's a great way to pay for some things or get things in the city, but we're kind of, this is the first time, so we're almost jumping into this the first time.
Either other questions, and then perhaps the council can weigh in on Council President Goodhouse's questions. But Councilor Newton, did you have questions you wanted to ask
I
first?
have a question. I was just going to make a comment.
Go
on,
for it.
Council President Goodhouse's comment. I did look at it when I was reading the contract and noticed that there's some restrictions on the advertising. And for me, because it is providing a benefit to some people that want the service, to me, it wasn't that much different than some of the recreation sponsorships and advertising. It's a service that we're providing, and so I didn't feel like it was just blatant putting up a rotating billboard and advertising the service that we're providing and getting some benefits. So I hear what you're saying. I thought a little differently.
And I just wonder too, I mean, if it's there at the library, you get a lot of foot traffic there, so I'm sure if we're going to get any response, it's going to be from that area where not as many people come to City Hall, but a lot of people come from the library. So people are saying, oh, now you're doing this, and someone starts thinking, well, how can I advertise, or what else can we do, and why are you providing this service? So it just might be, it's a food for thought, just to throw it out there and think about it, before we do it, that that's something that might come up later, or are we prepared to start doing other areas?
The other thing I'll add in is that this company, because of their business model that Nadine and Kevin were talking about, generally charge less for the electricity to the customer, so that it's not like it's free, but it might be more similar to what you'd pay at home instead of the typical price when you're going kind of out on the market, at least in the local Portland area, is about twice what you would pay at your house as far as kilowatt hour. So this one's somewhere in between that, so they're subsidizing that with the advertising. I mean, just to sort of make sure you understand the benefit to that our residents potentially. Other comments or feedback? Either to Council President Goodhouse's comment or anything else? It does raise a question that we should probably be thinking longer term about. Yeah.
Our Parks and Recreation program does have advertising opportunities in our guide, so it's not an entirely new activity for the city. We've taken on the idea of where we sell advertising.
We don't have large physical displays yet, or we haven't had that discussion, but yeah, it's not unprecedented. Okay, is there a motion or not a motion? Or some other action?
I second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you both. We had no non-agenda items. We have no executive session scheduled.
I make a motion to adjourn?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Did you get the second, Kelly? Do you know who did you take it? Counselor Anderson? Okay. I know when it's double, you don't love that. Okay, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.